Thank God. Ugh, Shan, what a buzzkill.
Welcome. You're listening to Nuditea, a podcast where we get naked with our feelings while drinking tea. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Wendy, and on this podcast we talk about life, love, travel, food, movies, again.
This is like back-to-back movie talk.
Yes, but I think it's important for us to address all of these new things that are coming out.
100%.
Today, we are going to be talking about our first impressions of the live-action Disney Mulan trailers. There's many of them, multiple. And just my perspective as a Chinese person, Kim's perspective as
someone who just analyzes the fuck out of everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think with it being pushed back, we were going to do this a while ago and we kept talking about doing it, but now with it being postponed because of coronavirus, we're like, let's finally talk about it. I know everyone has probably analyzed the shit out of this already, but we're doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
But first, yes, the tea.
I have a Earl Grey that is 3 years old that Kim bought for me for when I visited her at the house. So this is very special. It's the very last remnants of that era.
And I'm just drinking a peppermint tea. Basically, Wendy's moving out at the end of April, and we're just trying to cull the tea cupboard. Okay, yeah. So by this time, you've probably seen all the trailers. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I'm super psyched for this live-action remake. I think it's going to be the first one that actually, out of the Disney Renaissance films, the most beloved films, which will take the biggest departure from what the original film was. I never really wanted a Mulan that was exactly like the animated film, where I would just watch the animated film. It's its own beautiful thing. So, but from the trailers I love their use of color. It is a kids movie, so I think it makes sense that they're doing a lot of color. And I also think with a war movie, you can get really bogged down with the duller colors because you want to portray just how gloomy it all is. But I don't think they're doing that for this, and that's been apparent. So,
it is a Disney movie for kids primarily, so they have to make it easier
appealing
to watch
to their eyes
for children.
Yes, for sure. So even though it's for kids, probably the color decision, I think it's a good choice. I'm enjoying it anyway. It's actually the first live action remake that's PG-13. So, probably because of all the fighting and the killing, which for kids, I think it's fine. But
I think PG-13, all of these PGs are so arbitrary now. Kids can just watch whatever they want. They have access to basically everything.
Yeah, most of the superhero movies are PG-13, and I'd be fine taking a kid to that, depending on their age, but yes. So some of the differences between the animated film and what looks to be what's going to happen in the live action, and what they've even reported, is there is no Mushu or cricket. And I'm totally fine with that. I know people hate that there's no talking dragon, but I think they're trying to take a more focused look at just Mulan's character. And I don't think we necessarily need the comic relief that Mushu provided. Also, they would have had to animate that.
Or do some
dragon
crazy
the whole
CGI
time
stuff.
And would it have been more like a voice in her head? I think no Mushu and no cricket is the right way to go. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, there is that mysterious phoenix that takes up a whole half second of the trailers that are out. We just don't know what's going on with that. The Phoenix theme is very interesting from a culture perspective because typically the Phoenix in ancient China represents the Empress. And that's why in some of the trailers you see Mulan's father talking about, the Phoenix sits on the right hand side of the emperor. Yeah, that's because it's supposed to represent the Empress, and the Empress sits on the right hand side of the emperor.
Okay.
So I'm confused and also intrigued about which direction they're going to take with the Phoenix, because is the Phoenix supposed to be her? Is it one of her ancestors that's coming around to kind of replace Mushu? Obviously not in a comedic way, because I don't think they can make a magical Phoenix funny. Or at least maybe I'm just not imaginative enough, but I don't know where it's going, and I'm very excited to see what they do.
I know that people, when they first heard that Mushu wasn't going to be in there, the thought was maybe they're trying to take more of the magical aspects out of it because they wanted to do a more real take. But they replaced it with a witch, Which, again, I'm intrigued because I think they wanted to do, while there is the male antagonist, I think they also wanted Mulan to have a female antagonist. I think it'll be interesting. I think she herself, the witch, will maybe be the main big bad, or the one who's antagonizing Mulan
I think
the most.
she'll probably be the villain who has a bit more depth. I think Rohan Khan, especially in the animated film, it's a very two-dimensional character. He's out there killing people in China, and he just wants to invade, you know? Good old Khan. But what the animated film lacked was that villain that you could kind of have different feelings for, instead of just being like, oh, he's just a jerk killing and rampaging through these villages.
He's still a really good villain, because I remember as a kid, like, he just seeps or oozes very, like, the typical evil, but in a very, I don't know, interesting way. But yeah, he's not very dimensional, for sure.
But maybe that'll be different in the live action as well. So maybe we'll get two multi-dimensional villains, because you see in the trailers, he does say something about avenging his father in the process of taking over the Imperial City. So maybe there's a little bit more backstory to Khan that was not present in the animated film that we're going to see more of in the live action.
In Chinese culture, there's not talk of, like, the witch in the Mulan story.
No. So
that's completely new.
Just
thing
like
as well.
a little bit of context of the history of the story of Mulan. Essentially, it was a poem / maybe a song that was written way back in the day. It goes back real far. All Chinese children had to learn it and memorize it in grade school. It doesn't really talk about the war itself. It's mostly from Mulan's story and Mulan's perspective, and I'll get a little more into that once we get into the plotty bits of the movie. But essentially, it's just that 500 AD time period where Khans are invading Northern Wei Empire. So at that point, China was not unified. So when you hear people say the Emperor of China, that is already false, because historically at that point, China was broken up into multiple different empires. So the emperor that they're talking about in the Mulan films is the emperor of the Northern Wei Empire.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not
All of
unified
China.
China. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. And another thing that they've left out of this movie is there's no Shang.
Thank God. Ugh, Shang, what a buzzkill.
I mean, I love Shang as a kid, but again, I don't think he necessarily needs to be in here. If they're taking time to actually make their villains more dimensional and more going on there and trying to stick a little bit more to history, again, it's still a Disney film and it's not going to be perfectly historical. I think we can tell that just from the trailers.
The real poem of Mulan also does not mention that she had a romantic relationship with a Chinese general. So, you know, there's that. Thank you for, you know, going back to the poem for this part. Not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying.
When he's about to get into
I
it.
honestly didn't really enjoy Shang as a character. Maybe it's because my bisexual self came out and I was like, I want to marry Mulan. Don't touch her. She's mine. So maybe I was just like, you know, trying to fight Shang on a romantic love interest level. So I never really liked him. I thought he was just kind of very like, in Chinese we call them 直肠子, which is just like they're very tunnel vision in their views, and they kind of can't accept things that are going around them, even though it's like clearly there's a lot of gray area that you need to consider, especially in war and love. Anyway, glad they didn't put Shang in there.
And I mean, if they're going to focus more on Mulan, just cut out a character. It's easier. Yeah. He doesn't add a whole lot of substance, I think, to a live action film.
It's because he has no substance. He has no personality. Let's all just agree right now. Shang had no personality other than being like, I'm gonna make a man of you. No, you go home. Oh no, you get to stay because you climbed up this pole.
He had... Okay, I did like Shang.
Fight me, Kim. What about his personality? Fight me.
Personality-wise, I'm not 100% sure. I have to rewatch that movie. But he did have a little of the daddy issues in the sense that he was always trying to live up to this almost unattainable...
standard?
Sure.
Like in... just basically that sense of...
He has duty?
It's the same as Mulan, where she's trying to bring honor to her family.
Right.
In military families, that's the same thing. If your father was a powerful general, his sons are expected to kind of live up to that hype of their family name. So I don't, yeah, but so does everyone else, okay? Let's just focus back on Mulan.
I'm not saying, like, yeah, so they give him a little bit of backstory. He's not just there to be a foil. I don't know if foil's the right word for him, but to Mulan and her being
progressiveness.
In the army. Yeah. Again, he could not be in that movie and I'd be fine with it too, but I didn't hate him in the movie either. It wasn't, even that movie, even though he was supposed to be the love interest, I mean...
He didn't need to be, guys. He just didn't.
That's a Disney Renaissance thing. Like, she had to end up with someone kind of deal, so... Would you like to stay forever? The grandma is all for Shang, but well...
I mean, Shang was a hot piece of ass. I can admit to that. I just didn't
nipples,
like him.
Unlike Aladdin. Where's the consistency?
I'm just Disney moving forward.
Yeah.
With their animations.
The other thing, I guess, that most people have noticed, there are no songs in the movie, which I'm fine with. Even Mulan itself didn't have a whole lot of songs, comparatively to other Disney movies.
I think the songs that they had were just so iconic, but there were, 3-4 of them.
Yeah. They were great songs. I love all of them, honestly.
So iconic.
But yeah, now it's just, we saw in the trailers, you had the instrumental version of Reflection, which gets me every time. You watch that, and it just, brings...
Can we just
something
agree? Hold my hand. No, coronavirus. So
we live in the same house.
Hold your own hand. Can we just agree that the emotional turmoil you feel when you hear that song in the live action Mulan trailer? I am almost always brought to tears every single time I watch the trailers because of the instrumental Reflection song.
With the Reflection instrumental version in the trailers, I'm looking forward to hearing the other instrumental versions of the songs we know, but also whatever new they add. I'm very excited for the soundtrack bit of this movie.
I think it's going to be really good.
It's going to be great.
I also think maybe the changes in the soundtrack will be that they tone it down a little bit, because Mulan has a very hefty comedic relief component to it, whereas the live action not so much. So I think maybe all of the songs that we know and love that are really deep and reflective are going to be basically the same, but a lot of things like ancestors, hear my prayer, those very more upbeat, cheery songs that are a part of the comedy, I think they might be cut out or made into a minor or something instead of a major key.
And people who are looking for those will hear them. It's the details.
Yeah, even we see in the trailer, her in the matchmaking process in the live action is a very sad and dark moment, because it means that she has to leave her family, whereas in the animated version it's just kind of it's matchmaking day, let's take a bath and put some makeup on, so it's a very different vibe. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of musical differences as well.
One thing I wish, if they were really fully committing, I think, to make it a little more authentically Chinese, would be to actually have the actors speak in Mandarin or whatever their native tongue is, and then have us read subtitles. However, I do understand that it's for kids and kids don't necessarily want to sit there and read, but I do feel it's the same way I feel about watching a anime with subtitles versus watching it dubbed, is when you take an actor from their native language or their primary language, you lose some of the emotion a bit, because they're trying so hard to articulate the words.
Yes.
I find. So you can kind of see it a little bit. I still think the emotion's coming through.
Yeah.
And pretty decently. But there are times where it's I kind of wish we could rely a little more on subtitles. Get kids used to reading subtitles. Subtitles aren't a big deal anymore. I have them on Netflix all the time for any movie.
Make your kids more literate. Make them watch movies with subtitles. It's so easy.
I wish they kind of leaned in and did English subtitles with the actors.
Well, I mean,
Chinese.
if you wanted to, here's a heads up and fun fact for everyone who probably does not know this. There is a Chinese live action version of Mulan that was filmed way, way back in the day, a freaking long time ago, that more closely resembles some aspects of the original Mulan poem. And that is it was a Chinese production, so it's all in Chinese. All the actors are fully Chinese. They speak Chinese. Bits and pieces of the story, especially the romantic parts, were not as authentic to the poem. But if you wanted to give that a go after watching the Disney live action Mulan, you'll see that it is definitely not made for kids. That Chinese production of live action Mulan was for adults only.
Yes, I will have to check it out.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
You want to talk more into how authentic it is? I know when we were watching it, you're like, I don't know if those costume pieces were actually of time period, the makeup they were using. I want you to get into it.
Because you've brought up makeup, I don't know if the Western community knows about this, but after the live action trailer aired, it started this whole trend in China where people would put on the makeup that Mulan had on in her matchmaking scene. So essentially, the makeup that she had on was face painted white. She had a glowing yellow patch on the forehead, followed by a flower in the center, some hefty eyebrows, and some very strong blush. So a lot of people in China were super confused about this look, and a lot of the Western community is probably also wondering if it is backed up by any historical records at all. And I'm happy to say that it is probably 80% similar to an authentic Chinese look of maybe not the Northern Wei dynasty, but maybe like a little bit after that. Okay. So there is a lot of history regarding the flower in the middle of her forehead. It was about a princess that was asleep in the garden under a plum blossom tree. One of the plum blossoms fell on her forehead while she was sleeping, and then it left an imprint on her forehead. And everyone was so amazed by her beauty after this event that they started mimicking her, and then it became this whole trend. The yellow forehead and the white face, can I call it white face? Is that racist? I don't know. Whatever. This white face and the yellow forehead, that was also probably more a little bit pre-Tang dynasty, so a little bit after when this whole Mulan shindig was going down. But I mean, like, they're referring to actual Chinese texts and evidence about the makeup trends that were around in ancient China. So not too bad. I would have to say the way that they're dressed is alarming because of the amount of color and the mishmash of colors and the vibrancy of colors. Again, it's probably a lot to do with the creative freedoms required to make this film appealing.
It's going to look visually amazing.
It will, but also very clashy.
Okay.
I think they could have gone with vibrant tones that weren't so clashy, like Mulan's matchmaking outfit. It's like this crazy purple, and there's so many random reds and other colors, and the effect of her face with that outfit is quite alarming.
Okay.
The Northern Wei dynasty, that era of clothing, did not really look like that, especially if she was from more the countryside and her family was more poor, even though her father was a war hero. Like, they still clearly are very poor in the movies, the live action, because in the animated one, they're filthy rich. That's another fun difference. But in the live action, they're clearly not able to come up with that kind of outfit. So I'm like, where did you get this from?
I wonder if that will be explained away at all.
But also, like, girls didn't dress up, throw on all this makeup, and then go see the matchmaker.
Right.
The matchmaker usually talks to the parents. You get, like, when you were born and stuff, and that's about it. You don't have to, like, dress yourself up like a peacock to go see this matchmaker to be like, ooh, girl, you look like you would be a great match for this guy's son. No, that's not how it worked. It wasn't based on appearance whatsoever. Unless...
Based on compatibility.
Based on
zodiac signs and...
Zodiac and astrology type things. Mulan's whole look for the matchmaker scene, I have problems with. It's not completely historically inaccurate in terms of the makeup. I would say the colors of her outfit are a little too vibrant for her social status and what the situation required of her. But the shape of it, like the cut of the clothes, it's alright. It's alright.
Okay.
I'll let it go.
And a little bit of defense to that is it's not just this movie, they're butchering, like, accurate clothing. It's, women have to look good in the movies, apparently. So they do that with corsets.
She could have looked better if they had made it more historically accurate.
Okay.
Actually, the animated Mulan does a pretty good job.
Okay.
Yeah, that outfit looked like it could have been a Northern Way outfit.
Okay.
She's had some sort of like boob cover part going on, but like that's fine. It was probably more of like a waistband with an overlapping top, but it was very close actually to what we probably would have seen in Northern Way. The Emperor, he's got way too many layers in the collar region. I don't understand. If you rewatch the trailers, just take note of the Emperor's collar situation.
Okay.
It is wild up there. He is padded up.
Do you think the most freedom they could have had with any character design is the witch, because there's no
She doesn't
reference
exist?
to her? Yeah.
Okay, here's another thing. The cons definitely had these witch-like individuals in their clans. They were not technically called witches, they're called shamans. They are primarily healers. Sometimes they're known to be able to look into the future. They're able to tell you and advise you on how you should make your decisions, essentially. They were not out there kung fu fighting and turning into eagles. I get the eagle thing because obviously...
Is that to contrast with the phoenix?
Yeah, no, it's just because the cons, they had special hunting eagles and stuff.
Oh, and if we go back to...
Yeah. So it's just a part of their culture, which I think they've done well. I think there's elements of animal skins and furs in their outfits that really draw out the authenticity of the group of people that they're supposed to represent. But Witch, also, she was like fully clad in metal armor.
Because she was fighting.
But fun fact, the cons invaded Northern Way because they lacked the resources, especially metals, to be able to forge these types of things. So instead of like making all that metal into, knives, arrows, they were like, no, let's just pack this witch up with all of this armor. I think that witch could have handled her own without the armor. She looked like she was killing it. Side note, the actress for the witch, top notch. I think, in my opinion, she will outshine Mulan.
She's got me excited just from the trailers. I'm like,
Yeah,
I want to see what she does, and I think...
You should watch some of her older movies. She's extremely well known, and she's well known for being just a terrific face actor. You really see a lot of different things in her expressions, and she's just an amazing and talented actress overall. I like her more than Liu Yifei, who is the actress who plays Mulan. She's like, I don't know. I'm glad that they casted a Chinese person. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they made the decisions they made. I'm just saying, she a bit pretty and soft to be Mulan. Mulan, in the historical texts, was in the army for 10 to 12 years. 10 years of actual war and 2 years getting from the imperial city back home. No one ever found out she was a girl. And I'm saying that if you put Liu Yifei into the army, everyone would be like, that chick's hot.
Maybe
no one would be fooled.
Maybe the actress will surprise you, and this is a role that she's like really gonna show you she's not soft.
I mean, I think the point of the movie from the trailer is that she is both soft and tough, which I think is fine.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, girl, you should not have let down your hair in those fighting scenes. That probably just deterred your fighting skills. I don't understand. In the
Women in
animated
any like
film,
fighting scenes always like their hair comes down, and I'm like, this is not realistic. No woman would want to be like, you know what will make me fight better? My hair's flowing in
my
the wind.
eyes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the actress who plays the witch. I'm also excited for Mulan's father. He's also another terrific Chinese actor who I've seen in several things. Mulan, I'm excited for the direction that they take her. I'm excited for the director's hand in portraying this character, because I think Liu Yifei as an actress, she kind of weak. I don't know.
But
I don't know if you noticed from the trailer, but she's kind of like zero expression, whether she's sad or sad. I don't know. She was just sad the entire trailer.
Well, maybe
Let's be
that's
real.
why, yeah.
Let's be real. Maybe
She
it
had
gets
a
better.
teardrop. She got like the waterworks going.
Listen, all I had to do was sit her down and then drip some water on her face because that's all they needed. Her face just looks just the same the entire time.
Do you think she was picked? Is she known as combat, like fighting?
Oh, yeah.
In her movie, so she was picked for that, because I have to say
she has a lot of combat experience because of a lot of her previous films that were set in ancient China required her to fight.
I will say one of the things the trailer does a great job at is really getting me hyped for those fight scenes. Any action scenes that are going to happen, I think will look amazing.
She just has such a flowiness about her. Another reason why she can't pass as a guy in the army, because that's not how men fight. Anyway, so she has a real fluidity about the way she fights that is so feminine and is very empowering to watch, because she was an amazing warrior according to the historical poem. And I'm excited to see how they build her up to be this amazing fighter. Pumped.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about historical accuracy?
Yeah, I would like to just really quickly address those round buildings that you see in the trailer. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, like these.
Yeah.
Round. I was thinking round
Those.
from like up. It's
the ones that are in just like a circle. As a Hakka person, if you don't know, Hakka is my ethnic group. We make up a huge portion of Southeast Asian populations. It spans from China to India to all over the place. I am Hakka, and those buildings were built earliest in the 10th century by my ancestors in the south of China. Mulan takes place in the 5th century in northern China. So let's just leave it at that. It's like if we took the CN Tower and just plopped it all the way back into
Thunder
like
Bay?
Edwardian times.
Oh, okay. And in Thunder
Even
Bay.
further, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very confusing to see that because Northern Way, North, and Way are two things that should not exist in the same scene or time frame as Tulo, which are the buildings.
Okay.
Those buildings did not exist until the at most earliest 10th century. They probably existed after the 10th century. They fucked that up. But I mean, creative freedom, all in the name of creative freedom. But I'm glad that these buildings are getting some exposure because a lot of the people living in these buildings, it's like a mini village inside one building. They live off of a lot of tourism. So if you ever want to go check out those buildings that you saw in the Mulan trailer / movie, go to China, maybe not right now, but go to China eventually and go visit these villages. They have a lot of handmade crafts and foods like teas that they sell that are organic, locally produced, support local, businesses. So it was like fun and confusing seeing them.
Okay.
I'm a little offended, but also not that offended. I think that's basically everything I have to say. I did do a little bit of research. I found one fun fact about the Northern Wei dynasty that I wanted to share with everyone. Because down with the patriarchy, am I right? Because I found out that in the empire of Northern Wei and probably some other Chinese empires at the time, the mother of the crown prince was forced to commit suicide as soon as he was crowned the prince to inherit the throne.
So that she wasn't had any power and she wasn't queen regent or
Yeah,
anything
so
like
she had, it was to prevent any kind of political interference by the prince's mother.
Man, women always just get shafted.
I mean, I know. I mean,
Empowerment.
Mulan could have been just killed off by her own people if they found out that she was a woman. Which is why she did the correct thing,
And
was
hid
manly AF, and did not expose herself as a woman at all for 10 to 12 years. She literally came back from the war with some of her friends, and then she went back to her room and changed into her woman outfit and came out, and her comrades were like,
What? You were a girl this whole time?
like, that's how it went down. There wasn't some crazy reveal while she was in the army fighting this war. She fought that army.
Because she would have been killed, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they were going to in the animated film, but it's an animated film for kids. We ain't gonna see
Hush, hush, no.
killed, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's to move, like, the story along to fit something in a 90-minute film. The one final thing I wanted to say, because I bring Avatar: The Last Airbender into everything. We were talking about how the second trailer versus the final trailer they released, there wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
There were some dialogue moments that were different. So there's a point where the guy was kind of chained up, or he was talking to the witch lady.
Yeah.
And he was like, our plans will be ruined by a girl. And then it's a completely different scene, and she says, a warrior. And I just thought about back to season 1, Avatar, Kyoshi warriors. Just, Sokka's all like, I just didn't want to believe that I could be beaten by a girl, and I had no idea that you could be a girl. She's like, or like, you're a warrior. And she's like, I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too. So it just made me like flashback to that moment.
Not mutually
exclusive.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
We're a well-rounded individual. Were as in I'm Mulan. No, Mulan is a well-rounded individual.
But maybe just too soft for this movie.
I always wish that directors could just go out there and find people who legitimately look the part. Mulan was supposed to pass off as a legit man for 10 to 12 years in the army. You don't get Liu Yifei, who is the Chinese icon of femininity and gentle softness like a fairy, to play a person who has to be a man for 10 to 12 years. That's my only thing.
I think it's a lot to, I mean, if you're just looking at an open call, finding anyone who's like, it's the acting experience you do need. Yeah. And she does still have like a lot of on-screen like fight combat experience.
If the actress for The Witch was maybe like 15 years younger,
she
or got a real good makeup artist, I think she should have been Mulan. I think she would have made a better Mulan in every single way. She has fighting experience. She has a ton of acting experience. Right. She's got the look. She's got that like chiseled jawline, and you know she's a badass lady. And she could be a badass man too if she wanted to.
But that's also saying like men didn't look feminine ever at that time. The fighting style I'll give you, if she's very flowy, like therefore, you know, you could maybe pinpoint that out that not a man. But at the same time, that's putting the male fighters into a box, being like, they have to, like, they look like this, so they fight like this. And maybe that was the case, but there has to be some.
But I feel like it just has to be more convincing, you know? If she already fights like this, at least look like a man, so I'm not having all sorts of weird feelings for you while we're all in the army being bros, you know? Like, I'm just saying.
I guess.
Maybe that's why animated Mulan was so attractive to me, because she really did her part. Even though I knew she was a chick the whole time. Again, bisexual problems. This was a great time. I will continue to watch the trailers over and over until it comes out and just be emotional.
I wonder where they're going to put it, because Disney always has like a movie a month, and they always have their like stocked up, but I could see it being a summer movie. Yeah. I think they wanted to release it around the same time that Beauty and the Beast came out, and this was the exact time frame, like in March. And Beauty and the Beast made so much money. And I think Mulan will make way more money. And it probably should, because it like looks different. So I don't know where they're gonna put it. Summer movie maybe, but summer blockbusters always take up. But I think it'll.
I don't care. I'll wait. China represent.
I know. I was looking so forward to seeing it this month, but can't. Instead, we'll just talk about it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Nuditea. If you want to listen to other episodes, you can find them in the audio version anywhere you listen to your podcast. But if you want a video version, because Wendy does some interesting edits, and I'm intrigued to see what she does with this one, you can find that on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram. It's all at Nuditea Podcast.
And heads up, I did do a lot of research before filming this episode, something that I have never done before.
It's usually me doing any kind of research,
yes,
let's be honest.
I just wing it most of the time, but this time I wanted to get things right. So in the video podcast version, I will be throwing up a lot of reference images. And
probably right over my face, because why not?
So if you're interested in looking at some of those reference pictures that I looked at when I was forming my thoughts about the authenticity of this live action film, then check out the video version. And that's it.
Cool. Bye.